Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to give it about a minute to let everyone join. But thanks for joining us and sit tight. We'll get started here shortly. Okie dokie. I feel like we've hit about quorum here today, so I will kick us off. Thank you, everyone, for joining us to the New Rules of Hiring, a webinar from Hireology. Today, we're going to share some findings from a four-part study we've done just about hiring trends, workforce dynamics, and AI's role in shaping the future of work. This is our original research, research we do annually, where we talk to real employers and real job seekers. And so let's get into it today. Let me click to the next one here. Before we dive in, a few quick housekeeping items. The session is being recorded, so we'll make sure to send that out to all of you that registered and are attending today. So if you can't stay for the whole thing, I know a lot of you are busy and in the middle of your work week. You'll get the recording in your inbox after the event. And then if you want to chat with other attendees, feel free to use that chat panel. As you can see, the team put a nice illustration here. It's in the bottom left-hand corner. And if you have questions for me as we go, drop them in the Q&A. My team will let me know as those questions come in. And if we have time, we'll get to them at the end. If we don't have time, I'll be sure to follow up. So make sure you let us know from that perspective. So let's get started. Let me introduce myself. I am Kristen Shantz, the VP of Marketing here at Hireology, and I'll guide you through this research here today. I have been at Hireology close to 8.5 years now, so almost a better part of a decade. And this is my favorite part of my job. My team does research annually, and we've actually started doing this every 6 months now because we were seeing such a dynamic shift in what is going on in the workforce. This research was a team effort, and I'm really proud of what we've put together because there's so much going on out there, and it's really hard to navigate. And our hope today is this will give you a path forward as you look at what to do as employers, as people within the economic society, as well as just what's going on with skilled labor overall. So let me take 60 seconds to walk you through this research so you can kind of understand the context of what you're about to see, because the source of this really, really matters. This is proprietary research to Hireology. So a lot of public labor statistics lag by quarters. If you're paying attention to the monthly jobs report, there's always things getting corrected. It's all about self-reporting. And so where we really try to get at the heart of the matter is we've surveyed over 400 hiring managers and business operators in this space. From that perspective, we also have interviewed almost 1,000 job seekers out there across the same industries, those that employ skilled labor and go after those things from long-term care. I just saw a note. Are people hearing an echo at all? You guys hear me okay? Tara, are we good on your end? Okay. Sounds like we're good from that
Everything
perspective.
sounds everything
Okay,
sounds
good.
good on my end.
We'll keep going here. So, no other company really looks at what is going on in multi-location skilled labor workforce and talks to the applicants that go through it. We process about 100,000 applicants a month for the 10,000 businesses that work with Hireology. And we want to go back to them every 6 months and say, hey, what made you apply to the jobs that you're applying for? What's changing in your dynamic of what you expect? And look at it from that perspective. This is unique to Hireology. A lot of what you'll see, Gallup released a poll today, and it was great, but it'll look at knowledge worker, it'll look at tech workers. This is really about the businesses that you all operate, the brick and mortar, those that employ skilled labor, those that have multi-location franchise models, those who are really struggling to fill really high in demand jobs. And so with that research context in mind, let's get into it to talk about what we uncovered. Let me go to the next one here. So we've organized our research in today's session into four key parts. The first is what we're calling the Great Disruption. AI, the two letters that we never thought we'd say this much, is changing the way we work, changing the economy, and changing the dynamic of workers in general a lot. It's displacing workers in certain industries, but not all of the ones that we've all expected in the past. And that's creating a real opportunity for industries like retail, automotive, hospitality, and long-term care. Additionally, we're also going to look at what is the issue? What is the friction point between the same frustration? There's two sides to this story: employers and job seekers who both want quality matches but can't seem to find each other. Spoiler alert, it's not a supply problem. It's really about how do we ensure the processes tee you up to better match to each other. And then the third part here is really what we're going to call a false trade-off. How do we talk about filling positions versus driving the outcomes you guys need to move your business forward? Speed versus quality. How do we make sure we have both and don't sacrifice one for the other? And then finally, part 4 is about AI and hiring. There's AI that's causing disruption at the front end. How do you harness AI to take advantage of this middle part, which is about speed and quality and finding the right people? And so with that in mind, let's jump right in. So part 1, knowledge work versus skilled labor, and this is the great disruption. AI is replacing the jobs we thought were safe, and the opportunity is hiding in plain sight. This is the most important context shift in the entire presentation, so stay with me here. I will tell you, I've been doing a lot of these talks out there in market. And this may present the biggest economic opportunity for a lot of employers out there if they take advantage of this great disruption. So let's talk about it. For decades, we've been told the same career playbook: go to college, get a white collar job, enjoy this stability. Knowledge work was supposed to be the safe harbor. It was where careers grew, and it was what people aspired to be. AI has completely shifted the game here and flipped that script. If you're in marketing, if you're an analyst, accountants, consultants, engineers, these are the jobs being displaced right now. It may be because AI is actually replacing them full stop. It may be because businesses are getting more efficient with their dollars. If you're Oracle, which made a big shift in the last 2 weeks, it's because they're reinvesting in building data centers themselves. You also see here Amazon laid off 32,000 corporate positions. UPS eliminated 50,000 jobs this year. And then Verizon actually gave their white collar corporate workers a choice: move into the retail jobs, which is where they were really struggling, or take a severance. And so that tells you where businesses are starting to look in this long looked at and lusted after knowledge work economy. And they're in the traditional sense. This is really structural displacement. It's not like COVID, where we saw a lot of jobs disappear in retail and hotels and things like that. These are work that probably won't come back, or if they come back completely different. And so what does that mean for industries that employ skilled labor that have been long-term suffering, like in healthcare, for example, to find good people, to find people to work in these industries? It means you're about to have access to a talent pool that you've never had before. And that's what we're here to say, is say hello to your massive new pool of candidates. This presents the greatest hiring opportunity that we've all probably seen since post-World War II and the Industrial Revolution. I know that feels big and grandiose to say, but this presents a great chance for all of you to go find really top talent who've maybe overlooked some of the positions that are out there today. So let's talk about why that's happening and what this means, is, why you are all in a position of stability that people should be looking at. Work that can't be digitized and is becoming the most secure work there is. Think about what make these roles different that you all employ. They're location bound. There's no remote version of fixing a car, or dealing with a resident emergency, or cleaning a room, or delivering a good guest experience. There's a lot we can do to enhance it, but you really can't replace that in-person experience. They're also human-centered. You need to do that face-to-face. Your customers and patients want to know that there are people accountable to their experience, to their care, to the different things that they're doing. It is a human-centered role. Additionally, it's time sensitive. These are things that people need fixed immediately. They are time-bound problems that they want solved. And then finally, this is where opportunities where AI elevates but can't replace. It can help with scheduling. It can help with diagnostics. It can help with routing, but it can't execute the job end to end. A human still has to show up, make the decision, finalize the work. This is really a structural advantage to those of you in these industries that Hireology serves. And so let's talk about a little bit what this means for each of them. Hierology made a choice at the founding of this business 15 years ago to really focus on industries that operate in two key ways. Um, First, that you have multiple locations that you need to manage and keep brand continuity across them. And then second, who is sitting in a supply demand imbalance when workers are so critical to the success of your business? How do we really help those that have the most important work in front of them relative to hiring? And so let's talk about how these three industries really are impacted by this great disruption. In automotive, vehicles will still break, demand will never disappear, relationship driven sales can't be automated. AI assists with the diagnostics of the vehicle. It'll help you do outreach from your BDC department and all of those things. But financially healthy dealerships rarely lay people off. When was the last time you heard about an automotive dealership laying off their staff when it wasn't a merger and acquisition situation? Those are things that are worth advertising, making sure this next wave of the workforce is looking for. In hospitality, the industry runs on moment to moment human coordination. Average hourly earnings rose to 22.53. That's an 8% year over year increase last year. And these skills get better, and it is a place to grow your career. That it's very rare that you find someone who's in a GM position that didn't start as a bellman or in the housekeeper position. Those are big things that we should be telling and making sure that the perception gap is closed because there is stable work in hospitality. And then finally, long-term care. We know as the boomer population ages, the need and demand for long-term care is only going to increase. And right now we have about 5 million workers against the 9 million we know we're going to need. And so there's a lot of growth that can happen here. And we need to make sure we're pulling people into these industries and showing them that it is a stable place to grow your career because the demand is never going away. Every single one of these industries, has something powerful to offer displaced knowledge workers. And so this presents the greatest opportunity you will ever see as a recruiting and hiring team in your industry. And here's the challenge and the opportunity. The jobs have evolved, but the perception hasn't. And so this is what we're here to talk about today is how can we help change that perception? Ask a job seeker what they think about automotive work. Unfortunately, a lot of times they still think it's low tech, dead end. The reality, though, is you can earn anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 or more with skills in high demand. And there are a lot of training programs that I know exist in our work with Ford and GM that they're investing in making sure people are ready to do this. In hospitality, they still look at this as late night work, hourly work, no career path. The reality is they're earning more year over year. Career growth programs are vast and countless. You will make great friends and the culture is really important there. And so there's lots of things to offer in the hospitality industry that gives you a career. It's not just a job. And then finally, in long-term care, so often people look at it as it's just exhausting. Post-COVID, it's undervalued. There's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of things to be said as you get to provide real care to real people, and there's mentorship programs and companies that really look to invest in this staffing. So the workers are available. We know that to be true. It's just how do we make sure that we tell the right story to pull in people based on these jobs being stable, well compensated from that perspective. And what Hierology will always say is recruiting and hiring is essentially sales and marketing. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what you can control within that world. So this is where Hierology comes in, is we're built for industry leaders like you. This great displacement really presents as opportunity, as I've said multiple times so far, is how do we make sure career switchers are looking for that opportunity, that they know that stability is there, and those things. And then that's where we're going to really lean in here in part two, is how do we take all of that learning and all of this in front of us and really apply it and make sure that our processes, our tooling, our storytelling is built to take advantage of this opportunity. So let's go into part two here. Employer versus employee. It's two sides of the same frustration. If you think about it, employment is truly just how do you build a better relationship? And so where Hierology likes to come in is let's make sure we represent both perspectives. What is an employee looking for and what is an employer feeling on their end? And can we bridge that gap? So let's start with employers. 59% of you cite candidate quality and skill gaps as their number one workforce challenge. I hear that all the time. I was in Boston with a bunch of hotel operators last week, really struggling to do it. How many times do you say to yourself, no one wants to work anymore, or no one wants to do good work? It's not just a generational thing. And then nearly half of you say candidate quality and skills match is their biggest job market adaptation struggle. So what this means is that You're spending so much time having to sort through applicants who don't seem to fit, interviews that don't seem to convert, and hires that don't seem to stick. And so that can lead to a lot of time wasted and a lot of time spent on people that may not work. So here's the question I want to ask you to hold on to. Is it really a supply problem? Or is this something that may change? The next slide here is going to surprise you a little bit. When it comes to the applicant's perspective, we see 43% of applicants have changed industries in the last 5 years. So it's not that we don't have people out there who want to find a new home. 43%. I will tell you, when I started my time here at Hireology, that number was not nearly even in the double digits. 36% have completed or are actively pursuing retraining or certification program. So if you are struggling to find talent and you may have a good program out there, are you telling that story? Because there's 1/3 of the market that's already going through research. And then another 30% are considering those reskilling programs. So they're out there, they want to be part of this work. Candidates are not sitting still. They understand that this job market is shifting underneath their feet. They're adapting, they're reskilling, and they're signaling flexibility. This is no longer the post-COVID job market that we all lived in where everyone just wanted to work from home. People understand that the employment market needs to work for them, and that means that they need to change their approach. So if employers say they can't find quality people and candidates say they're really ready and available, what's actually going on? The real problem is a process problem, not a people problem. Requirements are too tight. Filters eliminate visible, viable candidates. Assessments don't measure transferable skills. Role clarity is missing. We don't have the right job descriptions or things on our career site that help tell our story. Fixing this doesn't require finding different candidates. It doesn't mean you have to open up to a new job pool or you have to spend more on job advertising. It really requires how you just take a look at your processes and your approach today. So I said this before, it's a process problem. Requirements are too rigid and filters eliminate viable candidates. So fixing this doesn't require finding different candidates, it requires fixing how you find them. Consider these approachable solutions. Smarter screening that captures transferable skills. Hireology has been working on some AI matching functionality to help with this. There's pre-screen survey tools out there. What you put in your job description also sends a signal out there. Clarify the role before that search begins. That's what I just said on the job description. Also putting on your career site and making sure your referral programs. Hey, let's be honest about it. This is going to require 8 hours of time on your feet at this hotel. That's not a bad thing because here are the other benefits you get out of the role. You get to be part of a career, you get training on the job, you get to be part of a uniform program, guaranteed wages, guaranteed schedule, all of those things. Additionally, use data to diagnose those process bottlenecks. How many of you have had a hiring manager say, hey, you're not finding me enough applicants, how do I get it? Take a look at it. Are they reviewing everyone? Are they showing up to interviews on time? Have they made their calendar available to be able to schedule those interviews? It may be that you have a process problem on your front that is not allowing you to get to candidates. It may not just be that there's not enough workers. And then there's also structured interviews that also reveal the potential things. Just having people show up and ask whatever question they want may not uncover what you need to make sure you're hiring the best fit. How do you make sure you have the right interview guides that are consistent across every part of your business, across every location within your business? The talent is out there and it is ready for you and it is adapting to wanting to change how they work and change what industries they work in. We just need to make sure we put our best foot forward. So if great candidates don't disappear, you may be losing them before they apply. But why? So let's dig into this a little bit more. A disconnect in the importance of employer branding between employers and candidates. 70% of candidates research a company's reputation before they ever click apply. This is my assignment to all of you from this perspective. If you are an employer and you are really struggling to figure out why people don't apply to your job, secret shop it. It is a famous thing that marketers do in the consumer packaged good industry. They show up to the grocery store, they shop the aisles, they see how they show up. If recruiting and hiring is a sales and marketing practice, you should do the same. If more than 2/3 of your candidate pool are shopping you before they apply, how do you show up on your career site? What does your job description say? Do you have good Glassdoor reviews? Those are all critical components to make sure you show up the right way. And the problem is, and this is why secret shopping is so important, is less than half of you will actively invest in this. Eager applicants are going to find all of these things. And so if you want to take one step today, secret shop and really look at it, and you will be better than half of your other market from that perspective. So think about this from a candidate's perspective. They search your company, what comes up? A list of open roles, a job application form. That's not enough anymore. Candidates want to know what's exactly like to work for you. They want to know do you see your culture before they commit to the application process? And if you're not giving them that, someone else will. If they're looking for stability, how do you show that you have a story about a bellman who became a GM? Or a certified porter that became the fixed ops director. Where are those stories and how are you telling them? So here's some good examples of this. Applicants are looking for information about what it's like to work at your organization. Thanks to social media, pictures are your best way forward. How do you showcase different programs you have? If you do picnics for your employees, if you give back in a different way, really leaning in to that. Polished marketing copy doesn't just move the needle. It really helps you tell the story in the right way. And if you have marketing within your locations or at your corporate office, tap into them. Make sure you're telling your story from that perspective. They also want to see how people succeed at your organization. As I've mentioned before, they want to see that career path. There's a lot to show. And those are my favorite stories about the industries we serve is no one stays put, everyone grows their career. And that's what the next generation wants to know. If I come to work for you, not what does the next 2 years look like? What could my future be? What could the next 10 years look like? Why do I switch industries? Why do I pick this? And then finally, they also want to hear from real people, real testimonials, real voices from inside your organization. This is real testimonials on a career site that Hireology has built, is they're talking about what it's like to work there. They're telling that story. It's more than just posting on Glassdoor. It's really showcasing it in a different way. We always say this at Hireology, your employees are your best recruiters. Put them to work for you. If they like what they're doing and they want to work with good people, they'll happily be part of this story from that perspective. So let's dive back into the data a little bit here. Here's one of the most important data points in this entire study. For the first time, employment stability has surpassed career path as the number one thing candidates are looking for. Number one. And close behind that, at number two, is better pay and benefits, cited by 44% as the top reason for switching roles or industries. In our research, we found that 54% of employers are recruiting outside of their industry. So that is a good sign. We know people are coming in. We know people are looking for different things. So to capture that talent, how do you communicate your compensation packages, your stability early and explicitly? How does it show up on those career site pages we talked about? Do you have an employment testimonial that talks about how you've invested in their future, you've invested in their path forward? This is where you will really start to win, and stability is your competitive advantage right now. Really leaning into that. Post-COVID, a lot of you heard us talk at Hireology about flexibility and pay being the two most important things because it was a kind of a free-for-all. We're getting back to a level of stability in the workforce of, hey, people want to know a different thing. What's interesting now, though, is AI has changed it again, which is people are looking for, where is my home? How do I make sure I have a job 6 months from now? How do I make sure I can afford my family and take care of people from a benefit perspective? And it is more than just, hey, they want an extra dollar in a paycheck. It is truly about the full package from that point of view. Overall, though, the disconnect and parallel frustration between candidates and employers isn't a supply problem. It's a process and messaging problem. And Hireology is proud to help multi-location businesses close the gap with our career sites, structured screening, and robust job descriptions. And so if you're looking to really struggle here, there's a lot of great content that you can download from Hireology to build a better career site, to write a better job description, to really go out there and just take advantage of it, regardless of if you work with us or not. My goal today is if you take one thing out of this is just, hey, how do I become a better marketer, not a better recruiter? And so on to the next thing. Part 3, fill versus outcome, the false trade-off between speed and quality. So every day a role sits open costs money. I think if you are on this call and you are a recruiter, you probably put the math together. If you work at a dealership, you know that every single day that you don't have a technician can cost you anywhere from $1,000 to $2,400 a day just for missed ROs. In hotels, it's misturned rooms, anywhere from $600 to $1,000. And then in healthcare, it is just managing that bed to patient ratio and really understanding that. And so the speed versus quality tension is real. There is that desperate need to make sure you have a person in the seat, but you don't want to sacrifice quality, so it becomes a revolving door in your business. And so speed and quality don't have to be at odds when it comes to filling positions. This is what Hireology is here to do. Hiring speed without visibility creates a different kind of cost. You're hiring the wrong person. What does that do for disruption? Do they not have the right kind of path to productivity? And those are the types of things that you really need to go in and augment. We had a customer of Hierology say this best. Prior to working with Hierology, we were recruiting with blindfolds on. And so if you're not putting the right person in the seat, not only do you cost yourself down the line, you also may be damaging other things within your store. And so how do we make sure that you can move quickly while also not sacrificing those other things? So let's talk about what really happens here. And it really gets down to making sure you have the right analytics platforms. First, you need to look at hiring velocity. This tells you exactly how fast or how slowly you are moving. Candidates are moving through each stage of the process. Are people sitting in applied status for 2 weeks before anyone looks at them? Are you getting back to resumes or reviewing them fast enough? Are you losing candidates between certain things? Do you have one hiring manager who's not following up the right way? Velocity data will show you how fast the bottlenecks are so you can fix them before great candidates walk out the door. I like to say this and put this in terms all of our businesses can understand. How many vehicles would you sell if you took a day to get back to a lead? How many rooms would you sell if Booking.com took a week to get back to a lead? And how many rooms or beds would you be able to turn if it took us that long for a doctor to show up and check someone out? These are the things to put into real terms. It's the same on that, is making sure you understand where you have bottlenecks from that perspective. But that shouldn't be looked at alone. You also need to look at sourcing effectiveness. Not all applicant sources are created equal. You might be spending money on 5 different job boards, but only one of them is actually producing quality hires. We show you which results are driving best. That's where insights and analytics really can lean in. It can feel really good to get 100 applicants from one place, but where are your hires coming from? Where are you finding the right people? How do you double down on that? Thinking about it as not just a cost per lead, but a cost per hire. How are you pulling in the right person? And then if you have multiple locations, how do you make sure that you have process adherence across locations? I'm sure all of us, if we work at those businesses that have many flags to manage, you have your problem children and your people who are operating really great. And so how do you narrow in that in? How do you make sure that, hey, this is where I have an issue with a hiring manager or a certain GM or a certain situation there? Consistency is where you will find some revenue opportunity and some hidden importance from that perspective. If one location is skipping a step, not getting back to people, that's where a lot of waste can come in. And so that's where analytics can really help you. And then finally, benchmarking. A lot of what we spend time on the road talking about at Hierology is that sometimes it can just feel like a never-ending situation in the hiring and recruiting game, particularly for skilled labor. Are you tracking better than everyone else? Are you getting your fair share of talent? That's where we have the opportunity here. And that's where working with someone who has those industry benchmarks to understand it is where we really come into play. And those are great content if you're looking for it on hierology.com to really understand, hey, should my time to hire be 2 months? Should it be 1 month? I can tell you should be getting back to resumes within hours, not within weeks, as one example. So actually, how do you actually do it? Here are 5 concrete ways to balance speed and quality without sacrificing either. 1, build talent pipelines before you need them. Urgency decreases dramatically when you have warm candidates ready to go. Stop starting from zero every time you have an opening. I'll tell you at Hierology, even when we don't have roles open, I have no roles open at marketing, you always keep your eye open. You always want to make sure, do I have a pool of talent? Do I have people that I would want to boomerang? Do I have an understanding of, hey, what this looks like? Always be hiring, particularly in the markets that Hierology serves in automotive, hospitality, and healthcare is really, really critical, especially in this job market. 2, front load the screening intelligence. Do you have pre-screen surveys? Are they doing the right things to fill out their resume? Are they letting you know what kind of skills-based matching they have from that perspective? How do you make sure that you have the right talent versus people who are just applying to apply? We did a lot of great things during COVID with things like Indeed's Quick Apply and situations like that to make it easy for applications to happen. Now we need to put a lot into the screening tools to make sure that goes faster. 3rd, invest in employer branding. Better applications go in if you have in the better hires come out without adding process time. If you really think about branding, it is a magnet. We've said this at Hierology for quite some time. the culture that you put out there, the story you tell in your job description, what you put on your career site will bring in the right people for you. It may be less volume, but it'll be the people you want to put on your payroll. Really tell that story that makes someone understand, hey, they align to my values. They are looking for what I want in an employer, and they're going to take care of me for the long haul and provide me that stability I'm looking for. That is where we can really, really tell the right story. And then finally, measure what predicts outcomes from your business. Optimize for those metrics that correlate with long-term success. Are these the good hires? Am I following my velocity? Am I doing all of these things? That's where we can lean in. And then finally, evaluate those transferable skills. How do you make sure you really understand all of these things to benchmark it against it? So again, leaning into this a little bit, this is where Hierology can help, and we have great content for you to take advantage of on these things. We're not just another applicant tracking system. We intentionally have picked the markets that we do to really understand them, because you can't operate, if everyone's trying to hire the same type of talent, it'd be one thing, but we're all looking for very specific roles in very specific markets with very specific operating models. So how do we make sure we do that? And how do we really lean into it? And that's where we can give you the full picture, from understanding where your best candidates come from, how you manage those processes effectively, how do you really lean into the screening tools, et cetera, from that point of view. So looking at part 4, AI solutions navigating early adoption with eyes open. So we started today's session talking about how AI is changing the way we work and causing this great disruption in the market, and really presenting an opportunity for us all to take advantage of. Now, this is really about how do we take advantage of that AI functionality and apply it to recruiting and hiring? What can we do differently to apply AI to our day-to-day? So let's talk about where things actually stand. Here's the opportunity. The AI maturity curve is very early. If you read studies every day like I do, it depends on what business you're in. It depends on what you're doing. How people adopt it is very different. And so here's where the market is. 29%, so less than a third of employers have implemented no AI functionality. And I can tell you a lot of it is businesses just don't know where to start. Another 30% are in early adoption, and then only less than 10% have broad adoption, and just 2%, I said that 2% have fully scaled and optimized AI solutions. And I can tell you that is not surprising to me based on what I'm saying. It's really, we know we need to use it. We know it'll drive efficiency, but where do you start? Meanwhile, on the candidate side of things, 42% of today's applicants would say that their AI understanding is very or somewhat strong, compared to only 26% of employers. So you have a job market that is comfortable and understands it and is willing to engage with AI, but less than a quarter of employers are the same thing. And so that's where we need to start to bridge the gap as a group, is how do we make sure we have a first mover advantage? If you move now, you will build process maturity while many of your competition will be left in the dust. So let's go through this again. We started today talking about the great opportunity in front of us. We said that there is a gap in perception that there is workers out there, and we are not capturing enough of that. The reason behind that is a process gap. And then ultimately, our candidates today are comfortable with AI, but we aren't. And so that leads us to, hey, we can take advantage of this and we can make some changes. So silence on AI is no longer a thing we can do. It's being is interpreted as a red flag. Hey, do you have the systems to move me along? Is this a place that's going to get there? 50% of candidates are comfortable with it in the hiring process. 32% are uncomfortable and 6% are sure. And here's what that means. 86% of employers say human oversight in AI-assisted hiring is extremely or very important, and we could not agree more. Human beings still need to make decisions on who gets put on their payroll. We still want humans at the final decision point, but we think we can move the tasks along a lot faster. We can close those process gaps I just talked about. We can make the data-backed decisions really live out there. And so tell candidates where AI is used. If you're using a chatbot, if you have things within your application like writing the job descriptions, it's okay to let them know. It's really about how the human beings feed the strategy, how you make sure that everything is written for your business, for the people you're trying to hire, for the industries that you serve is really important. And that's what builds trust. And so let's get practical. Where does AI actually start to be valued in hiring? Let's start with kind of, there are 4 key things that everyone goes through regardless of what type of industry you're in relative to the hiring process. You need to attract and source really good candidates into your applicant funnel. You need to engage with those applicants, make sure you're communicating with them. Then you need to evaluate, hey, are these the people I want to put on my payroll? And then you need to hire and onboard them. What we know to be true at Hireology, though, is that if you were working in skilled labor in kind of a franchise or multi-location model, it gets even more complicated across those stages. And so AI can really, really help. And so how do you have AI-powered job ad optimization? Is it helping you write job descriptions based on industry benchmarks or based on what you've done before? Is it helping you make sure it's language specific and cleaning it up? Does it help you? Do you start to have programmatic job distribution? How can you get beyond just posting to the job boards that exist today that Hireology is happy to be great partners with? Do you have chatbots that drive candidate engagement? Are you communicating with them and those of that nature? And then can you start to go back into your database and say, hey, these are the right people that should have been a match before? Once you get through kind of, hey, how do I build my top of funnel, my talent pool? How do I engage with them? Do you have things that just do skills-based matching algorithms? Can you put into your system, hey, here are the things I want people to look for in the resume, in their application, et cetera. Then how does it save time in resume parsing? I will tell you, as someone who is on the road a lot, talking to a lot of HR managers and recruiting managers, going through 100 resumes every morning is everyone's least favorite part. And I'll tell you, by resume 10, we kind of skip and just start to skim everything else. What if we leveraged AI to really make that go a lot faster? And then how do you make sure that there's structural scoring to reduce bias? AI is great, but we need to make sure that we are putting everyone through a consistent process and doing it from that perspective. And for those of you who have been audited or gone through this process before, having documentation to make database decisions is where this can really unlock a lot of powerful opportunity for us all. And then how do you scheduling? There is nothing worse, I'm sure, that for all of us to schedule a meeting, but particularly schedule an interview. The type of talent we're all looking to hire, whether they are unemployed or coming from other businesses, they are not in front of a computer all day like all of us. They're in front of their calendar. And so how do you go back and forth to automate scheduling, to make that a lot easier, to do the phone screen, to bring them in for their final interview, to run the background check, whatever it may be? And then how do you make sure you have a structured interview process once you get through that scheduling hump? Hey, are we asking all the right questions? If we ask the same 5 candidates 5 different types of questions, we're not going to be able to assess correctly if they're the right person. How do we build some structure and continuity between that? And then finally, what is our engagement analysis on recorded interviews? Are people talking to us? Do we feel like they're the right person? Have we run the right scoring mechanism? Have we compared it all? And then finally, how do we hire and onboard them effectively? How do we make sure we're providing the right offer letter? Do we collect documentation before it? How do we make sure that the onboarding workflow is running so that we don't have to worry about putting people in a room, having them sign paperwork, do all of the things on day one? And then finally, how do you make sure that there's early engagement and check-ins? I'll tell you at Hireology, we get a little bit of a nudge. It's been a while for me being here 8.5 years, but I'll let you know, hey, have you filled out all your right things? Are you running through the onboarding the right way, et cetera? And so that kind of brings us to our end. So curious about how to approach AI with all of those things. You're in the right place. And so let me talk a little bit about, we talked about the features across the hiring steps that you need. Let's talk about the way you approach AI and implementing them across those things. First, it's really about elevate, don't replace. I think there's a lot of conversations and knowledge work about AI is coming for jobs. It's taking people's position. And a lot of it is really just about businesses are able to be more efficient. AI can handle volume and routine tasks. So think about resume parsing, going through a lot of things, schedulings. You still need human beings to handle judgment, and those relationships. Hiring should still be human. It should still be a human making the decision of who you put on your payroll. Second is transparency should be non-negotiable. They need to understand, candidates want to know from you out of the jump, who am I talking to? If I'm talking to an AI agent, that's fine. I'm okay with that. You need to let me know though. And I think that is where trust gets started from the day one, because employment is really about starting from a place of trust. 3, it allows you to audit for bias. As I mentioned before, if you've been audited before, understanding, hey, here's the data we made decisions, here are the things we're looking for, really understanding it from that perspective. And then 4 is really starting where friction is highest. Identify your biggest bottleneck. I'll tell you right now with the 10,000 clients that Hireology works at, where we are seeing the biggest bottleneck and the biggest friction point is in the screening and resume parsing stage. How do you make sure you go through all of the applicants that are coming from outside your industry and within your industry leads to a lot of friction and a lot of burden on hiring managers. And so that's where we're looking to apply AI, and those are the features we're rolling out, is really apply it to the place where there's the most friction. And then five, measure before and after. If you're going to invest the time in AI transformation, is it leading to the outcomes you want? Is it helping you go faster without sacrificing quality, as we talked about before? And then finally, integrate it, don't bolt it on. I think there's a lot of things out there where people are tacking on AI functionality or AI features to the system that already exists. Context-based AI is the way this technology is working. How does it understand the workflow that it's operating within? How does it understand your business, who you're trying to hire, what you're trying to achieve is super important. And so making sure it's part of an integrated native-based strategy is super critical as you look at solutions. So I want to zoom in a little bit, excuse me, and show you where we think this is headed, because timing really matters here. Today, displaced knowledge workers are seeking stability in skilled labor. That is happening today. If anyone wants a good read, pay attention to what's going on with the 30,000 people that got let go from Oracle in the last 2 weeks. There's a big social media story about that today. This is the moment where we can take advantage of those stories, and where how do you attract a marketing professional or someone who worked at those companies into your world, into automotive, into healthcare, into hospitality. 1 year from now, the early movers who have made the change, who have taken advantage of this opportunity, who've moved quickly, will have already built great teams, and they will already be leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. And then 2 years from now, the late movers will face the same shortage as always. If we could create technicians out of thin air, I absolutely would, but we're not in the cloning business. And so this is where it's how do you get more than your fair share out of the gate, because 2 years from now, it'll be too late. And so this window is finite and the opportunity is real. And we're hoping that you can that we've helped you take advantage or see it clearly and can move quickly on it. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming to Hireology. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the things that are going to be available here soon to make sure you're part of that 1 year window. So first, AI Match. Every applicant reviewed every time. It evaluates candidates against required and professional qualifications. So you'll be able to say, hey, here are things that I would like to know if this person has. These are things that need to know. It pulls evidence from their resumes, their applications, and their pre-screen surveys, and then it ensures no candidate is missed. How many times does someone that you would probably wanted to hire be the 100th resume that you didn't get to? AI Match will make sure, hey, here are the 5 that you should talk to first because they meet your qualifications. They've gone through all the screening steps. We've reviewed every single resume. Start with these 5. That's what AI Match will do from Hireology. And then second is AI Interview. Save hours on the pre-screen phone interview. So many people like to do that, and I've been hearing this across the country, in Vegas and Boston, for the events we've had in Q1 about ghosting and people not showing and how much time you spend just doing the standard phone screen. Candidates can now complete the first round AI-led interview with an agent that will speak your brand, tell your story, answer the questions, ask the questions that you want them to ask. It is able to switch languages based on who you're talking to. It will evaluate the responses against a defined rubric that you set up for clear, unbiased signals, and the full transcript and summary of the phone call will be available for you. It will not make a decision. It will not knock people out in AI Match or AI Interview. It just helps you collect data early on so you don't have to waste time in those early steps, and you can really focus your time on evaluating down the road. So let's talk a little bit at the time here. I want to make sure we have some questions, be able to answer some questions here at the end, is today's key takeaways. First one, the great disruption is real. AI is displacing knowledge workers. Your industries offer, if you are an automotive, hospitality, and healthcare, your industries offer the stability that job seekers now crave. And there's a competitive advantage. Take advantage of it, own it. We're here to help, and I can tell you, I've never been more excited to serve the industries that we serve here at Hireology. 2, the gap is in execution, not supply. So candidates are ready and reskilling. Process problems are masquerading as skill gaps. Fix the process. Really take a look at how you hire and recruit. Are you doing it like you should? And then finally, your employer brand is your number one recruiting tool. About 70% of candidates research you before applying. Shape that narrative or lose control of it. How do you tell your story? You've all worked at your industry, your businesses for quite some time. What made you want to work there? Answer that question. Is that story represented on your career site, in your job descriptions, etc.? Four, measure the outcomes, not just activity. Shift from what you've been thinking about before, which is applicant volume, and really understand, am I hiring the right people from the right sources at the velocity I want? And are people at all my locations and my hiring managers at that level of process adherence that I'm looking for? And then finally, AI adoption should be transparent and measured. Are you making sure that you can take advantage of all the technology that's out there today to fix steps 2 and 3 and 4? Is it, can you use AI to help fix the process problem? Can it tell your story better? Can it help you understand your metrics in a different way? So the full study will be landing in your inbox today after this. There's a lot more that I didn't get to, but I wanted to make sure with 15 minutes left, we can answer any questions or give you some time back. But I really appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully you learned one thing coming out of this that you can put into practice from that perspective. And with that, I will turn to some questions. The first one I see here is from Steve Smella. Do caregivers in home care use Glassdoor, or how do they research companies before they're applying? Steve, great question. I think what you will find is people will do a couple different things. Google is still the place a lot of people start. And Glassdoor will show up there. It will show up on a bunch of different places. Your career site is going to be where 1 out of 2 candidates always go. They're always going to have a destination to understand your story, and that's where you can control the narrative. If you have social media accounts and you have Gen Z applying, you're also going to search your social media. So how you show up on LinkedIn, how you tell your employee stories there, Instagram, if you have a TikTok account. All of those things are what people are going to look at. It's not just the job boards anymore. That may be one place they look, and that may be where they apply because they have an Indeed account, but they're going to do research on your career site. They're going to Google you. They're going to go on Glassdoor. They're going to look at all the social media places, and then they're going to talk to their friends. If they've been a caregiver in this space for a while, they're also going to talk to other people who may have worked for you or not. So again, understanding your employee engagement and how you tell those stories out there is really going to unlock some things for you from that point of view. Other questions here. Just looking on my phone to be able to see it. We have another one. If I could just take one piece of this back to my team to put into practice, what would you suggest? If I could just suggest one thing, and I talked about this earlier at the beginning, and there's a couple of things on hireology.com that you can download to support this, is that concept of secret shopping. And even if you want to do it right now, go on your phone and try to apply to a job at one of your businesses, at your corporate location or your individual locations. What would you grade it? Was it easy to apply? Was it mobile optimized? Did your career site have a good story? Did your competitors show up in a Google search before you? Did the job description just start with, hey, here are the hours you're going to work? Or did it tell the story of, hey, I'm a hotel and hey, you want to grow your career here? Do you want to be part of a good culture? Do you want a stable position? Do you want to set 20 hours every week? How do you tell the story that leans into what the applicant wants? Secret shopping is step one. We all get into the day-to-day of our roles, and being able to really look at that is where you'll unlock a lot of opportunity from that perspective. And I think with that, I may be out of questions unless anyone has any more they'd like to submit today. Okay. I think we're good. So, before I let you go, if you liked what you heard today and you're thinking about how you could start to tackle these solutions, we'd love to talk to you. Feel free to scan this QR code. We're ready to talk to you about ways to pull people in, take care of it, take advantage of AI, and happy to talk through more of the study data there. And with that, I'll say thank you, and you get 10 minutes back in your day, and appreciate your time today. And feel free to email me directly if you have any questions. I'm also on LinkedIn. Thanks so much.